A Last Exorcism of Father Quinn. Part 1. A Cursed House and the Missing Girl. I was never meant to witness that night. I should have stayed home. But when Father Quinn called me at midnight, his voice trembling, I knew something unspeakable was about to unfold. The storm had been raging for hours. The kind of storm that gnawed at your nerves, where every crash of thunder felt like it might shatter your bones. I remember staring out my window, watching the branches scrape against the glass like skeletal fingers. Then the phone rang. It was old, one of those rotary models my grandmother had refused to replace. And when it rang at midnight, it always meant bad news. "Mark, it's Father Quinn." The voice cracked through the line. "I need you at St. Elora's, now, and for God's sake, don't tell anyone." His words were frantic, and something in his voice, a kind of primal fear I'd never heard from him before, made my stomach twist. St. Elora's church had been abandoned for nearly 15 years. The town said it was cursed. People swore they heard chanting inside at night, saw lights in the windows when no one was there. A place even the bravest kids wouldn't dare enter on a dare. I grabbed my coat and a flashlight, my hands trembling as I stepped into the storm. The streets were empty, the rain pelting the asphalt like 1,000 tiny needles. When I reached St. Elora's, the heavy wooden doors were already ajar, swaying gently in the wind. The air inside was colder than outside, a kind of damp, suffocating chill that crawled down your throat and settled in your bones. I found Father Quinn in the nave, kneeling by the altar, clutching a worn leather book, his face pale and drawn. The only light came from a single flickering candle. "You came," he whispered, his eyes bloodshot. "It's Lydia. She's in the rectory basement. We don't have much time." Lydia. I knew the name. A 14-year-old girl from town. Sweet, quiet. The kind of kid who volunteered at the library and brought stray kittens home. A month ago, she vanished without a trace. And now here she was, somewhere in the bowels of this cursed church. What happened to her? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Father Quinn hesitated, his eyes darting to the shadows. "She's not Lydia anymore." Before I could demand an explanation, a sound came from the basement, a long, low growl that didn't sound human. It vibrated through the stone walls, making the candle flicker. "We must begin," Father Quinn said, grabbing his crucifix and a vial of holy water. We descended the stone steps into the rectory basement. The air grew colder with every step. The walls were slick with moisture, and the ancient stones seemed to pulse, as if alive. At the bottom, we found her. Lydia sat slumped in a wooden chair, her wrists bound with thick rope, her head hung low. Her long black hair clung to her face, wet with sweat. The skin on her arms was covered in deep scratches. When she looked up, my heart nearly stopped. Her eyes, once bright hazel, were now inky black, reflecting no light. A cruel smile curled her lips. "Welcome, Mark," she hissed, her voice layered, as though two people were speaking at once. I staggered back, my blood turning to ice. "She knows me," I whispered. Father Quinn's hand tightened around his crucifix. The entity inside her knows everything about everyone in this town. It's ancient, older than the church. It's been waiting for a vessel. As the candlelight flickered, the shadows on the walls seemed to move on their own, creeping closer. Father Quinn opened his leather book, muttering in Latin. And that's when Lydia, or whatever was inside her, started laughing. A deep, guttural, otherworldly laugh that echoed off the stone walls and made the air feel heavy. You think your little prayers can stop me, old man? She sneered. Her voice dropped to a guttural snarl. I've waited for this night, for Father Quinn's final sin to be revealed. I turned to him. What's she talking about? His face went ashen. I'll explain later, he muttered, raising his hand. But we both knew. Whatever this was, it wasn't just about Lydia. It was about him. And none of us were leaving this church alive. Part 2. The haunting begins. Voices in the walls. The candle flickered violently as Lydia's laughter echoed through the stone walls. A chilling reminder that we were not alone in the basement. Father Quinn tightened his grip on the crucifix, his knuckles turning white. He began chanting in Latin, his voice steady but strained. Exorcizo te, omnis spiritus immunde. Lydia's head snapped back, her eyes rolling into the back of her head. She convulsed violently, the ropes binding her wrists creaking under the strain. Suddenly, the candle extinguished, plunging the room into darkness. A guttural voice, not Lydia's, growled from the shadows. You cannot save her, priest. She is mine. I fumbled for my flashlight, finally managing to switch it on. The beam illuminated Lydia's face, now twisted in a grotesque grin, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Father Quinn continued his chant, louder now, his voice echoing off the damp walls. In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Lydia screamed, a sound so piercing it felt like shards of glass slicing through my ears. The ground trembled beneath our feet, dust falling from the ceiling. Then, silence. Lydia slumped forward, unconscious. Father Quinn collapsed to his knees, sweat pouring down his face. It's not over, he whispered. This was only the beginning. Part 3. Blood, the secret room, and the forgotten ritual. It's not over. Those words clung to the damp air like the scent of decayed earth. The silence after Lydia's scream was worse than the noise. A suffocating, heavy quiet, as if the basement itself was holding its breath. I helped Father Quinn to his feet. His hand trembled as he gripped my shoulder. We need to move her, he rasped. Somewhere sanctified. Why not here? I asked. Isn't the church? This place was desecrated long ago, he snapped, his eyes wild. I failed this place, Mark. The ground itself rejects God's light now. Before I could ask what he meant, Lydia stirred, a soft whimper. Then a word, Mommy. It sounded like a child's voice, fragile, innocent. I stepped forward. Lydia? She lifted her head. Her eyes were no longer black, but hazel, wet with tears. Her lips trembled. Help me, please. I hesitated. the flashlight beam quivering in my grasp. Father Quinn hissed, "Don't listen. It mimics her." But the look in her eyes, it was Lydia. I stepped closer, and then the room erupted. The walls trembled as a deafening, inhuman roar filled the basement. The ropes holding Lydia snapped as if cut by invisible blades. She shot up, grabbed my wrist with unnatural strength. Her face twisted into something demonic. "You'll die down here, Mark." I tried to pull away, but her grip was like iron. Her skin burned against mine. Father Quinn lunged, slamming the crucifix against her temple. A burst of light filled the basement. Lydia shrieked and recoiled, collapsing to the floor. "Get upstairs, now," Quinn yelled. I didn't wait. I grabbed the flashlight and ran, my heart pounding. The narrow stone staircase felt endless, but as I reached the top, a voice called from the darkness below. "He's hiding a secret, Mark. Ask him about what he did to the other girl." I froze. What other girl? But Father Quinn was already slamming the basement door shut, bolting it. His face was ashen. "Don't listen to it. It lies." But something in his voice told me he was afraid. Not of the demon, but of the truth. Part 4. Annalise's ghost returns. The old house groaned around us as Father Quinn and I bolted the basement door. Every shadow seemed alive, every whisper of wind a voice. "We can't stay here," I panted. "What was that thing talking about?" "What other girl?" Father Quinn didn't answer right away. His face, pallid and drawn, aged a decade in those few seconds. He ran a trembling hand through his gray hair. "You deserve to know," he murmured. 10 years ago, I performed an exorcism here. A girl named Annalise Carter. The name struck something cold in my chest. I thought that was a rumor, a local legend. It was no legend. His eyes shone with a guilt too deep for words. I failed her. She died during the rite. A chill gripped me. "And you buried it?" He nodded. "I told the church it was an accident. They believed me. Or they wanted to. But the spirit wasn't banished. It clung to this place. It's what's inside Lydia now." I swallowed hard. "And you didn't warn anyone?" I thought it was dormant." His voice broke. "Until tonight." A loud crash sounded from upstairs. We both froze. "That's not possible," I whispered. "She's in the basement." But a second crash came, then a giggle, high-pitched and childlike. "Father?" We turned to the staircase. At the top stood Lydia, or something wearing Lydia's skin. Her face was pale, streaked with blood. Her eyes shimmered with a sickly yellow glow. And she smiled. "You left me in the dark," she cooed. "Annalise doesn't like the dark." Father Quinn's hand trembled as he raised his crucifix. "Annalise, I command you." The entity screamed, a sound like glass shattering in my skull. The crucifix burst into flames in Quinn's hand, making him drop it with a yelp. The lights flickered, and a rancid wind howled through the house. I grabbed Quinn's arm. We have to leave. Now. But he shook his head. It won't let us. This ends tonight. And then, impossibly, a second figure appeared behind Lydia. A young girl, maybe 9 or 10, with hollow eyes and an open, slack mouth. Annalise. Part 5. Blood. Father Quinn's deadly confession. Annalise's ghostly form drifted down the staircase, her bare feet making no sound on the warped wooden steps. The air around her shimmered, as if reality itself recoiled from her presence. Father Quinn's face crumpled, his eyes welling with tears. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. Annalise's dead, vacant eyes locked onto him. "You lied to them," she crooned, her voice overlapping with Lydia's in a nauseating chorus. "You said I was saved." The walls of the house trembled. Dust sifted from the ceiling. "Father Quinn," I rasped, "what did you do?" He sank to his knees. "I was young, arrogant. I thought I could drive it out, but it was stronger than me. I panicked. His voice broke. "I ended the ritual before it was complete. She died still possessed." A cold, brittle laugh echoed from Annalise. "You left me there, Father, in the dark, in the cold." I felt the air press against me like an invisible hand, my lungs struggling to expand. Suddenly, Lydia's body jerked unnaturally, as though invisible strings yanked her in every direction. Her mouth stretched wide, an inhuman shriek pouring out. "It wants us both," I gasped. The house was no longer just a building. It was a cage, alive and hungry. Father Quinn stood, wiping his eyes. His voice steadied. "I won't run this time." He turned to me. "There's a relic, the Sanctum Crucis, hidden in the church's altar. It's the only thing that can finish what I started." A deafening bang shook the house. "Then let's go get it." "No." His voice was calm. "I have to keep them here." The meaning hit me like a hammer. "Father, no." But he was already stepping toward them, crucifixless, arms spread. "Annalise, Lydia, I'm here." The two figures lunged. Shadows swallowed him whole. I bolted from the house, the walls wailing behind me. I didn't stop running until I reached the church. Inside, the altar stood silent, dust motes dancing in the beam of my flashlight. I found the false panel. Beneath it, a small, ancient cross of pure silver. As I grabbed it, a sound like 1,000 voices screamed from every dark corner. The house knew, and it was coming. Part 6. The Final Exorcism and the Price of Redemption. I clutched the Sanctum Crucis to my chest, its cold metal biting into my skin through my shirt. The church's heavy wooden doors groaned shut behind me, but there was no safety here. Not anymore. A shriek pierced the night, a sound so inhuman it seemed to tear at the fabric of reality. I turned toward the house. Shadows poured from its windows like smoke, twisting and writhing through the trees. They were coming. I forced my trembling legs to move, sprinting back toward the cursed house. The wind howled around me, and with every step, the air grew thicker, heavier, as though the darkness itself resisted my passage. When I reached the porch, the front door hung ajar, swaying slightly, though no breeze touched it. Inside was chaos. Furniture lay overturned. The walls bled, a black, viscous ichor. A putrid stench of decay and burned wood clung to everything. And there, in the center of the ruined living room, stood Lydia. Or what remained of her. Her body twisted unnaturally, limbs bending the wrong way. Eyes pure white now, a grin so wide it split her cheeks. Behind her, the shadow of Annalise flickered and twisted like an oil slick on fire. "You should have stayed away," they hissed in unison. I raised the crucifix. The silver warmed in my hand, a glow radiating from it. "By the light of God, I command you." The house itself seemed to rebel. Floorboards buckled, windows shattered inward. A force hurled me against the wall, the crucifix skittering from my grip. Darkness surged, a wave of shadow and teeth. But then, a voice. Father Quinn. Somehow, impossibly, his voice echoed through the storm. "Finish it for her." I crawled toward the crucifix, every inch feeling like a mile. Darkness clawing at my vision. I gripped the relic, its warmth flooding back into me. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I thrust the sanctum crucis forward. A blast of pure white light erupted, consuming Lydia, Annalise, and the room itself. They screamed, a sound of rage, sorrow, and relief tangled together. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, the house was still, the air clear. Father Quinn's body lay at peace, a faint smile on his face. The walls no longer wept. The darkness was gone. Lydia's body, free of possession, lay unconscious, but breathing. I stepped out into the dawn, knowing I'd never speak of what happened here. But the sanctum crucis remains with me, because evil never truly dies. It waits, and I'll be ready. Evil never truly dies. It waits in the dark corners of our world. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another nightmare. More sinister stories are coming soon. Sleep tight, if you can.